beaconcm.com. Wall Street closed at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, or 12 o'clock here on Tuesday. Trading will pick up as normal today at the opening bell. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
Asian markets dipped in Tokyo and Shanghai to have only a handful of world markets open on Christmas. A Japanese government panel is backing a draft energy policy that calls for producing half of Japanese electricity with renewable energy by 2040. It also recommends maximizing nuclear power use to meet electricity demands for AI applications. Japan's cabinet is expected to approve the plan. President Biden has 2 weeks to decide on the proposed sale of U.S. steel to Nippon Steel of Japan. The government panel has failed to reach consensus on whether the nearly $15 billion deal is a possible national security risk. Both Mr. Biden and President-elect Donald Trump oppose the merger and promise to block it. Survey by the National Federation of Independent Businesses shows the Small Business Optimism Index rose by 8 points in November. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
A lot of red on the futures market this morning. The Dow futures down 156. The NASDAQ futures losing 103. S&P futures, they're down 25. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. It's another slow go today on the roadways. So really not a lot of traffic. There are no delays to speak of. Everything looks good on 40, 65, and on 24 this morning. And you've even got the T-Dot holiday continuing this morning. There is no added construction zones, lane closures for construction all the way through January 1st at midnight. So nothing of that you'll have to deal with either. Maybe just a little extra traffic around the mall areas today. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, the roulette wheel of which host will be here early in the morning to fill in for the great Marconi Award-winning Dan Mandis. Well, you have got Jay Harper here. And as I hear people that are up this time of the morning on the day after Christmas, you poor slobs that had to work today, or maybe you're just used to being up this time of the morning. You're like, oh, no, that guy? Where's Dan? Yeah, I know. Dan has been pulling that Red Eye Radio gig for a while now. So he just concluded his portion of things. So, yes, I'm Jay Harper, happy to be, well, I think I'm happy, trying to be happy here. Yes, of course, happy to be here this morning. Mason, my man, it's always good to see your smiling, friendly face through the glass.
Happy to be here, Jay. Happy to help out this morning. I know Malinoff has been here in my seat for the past couple of weeks, and we're glad to have him here, but I'm giving him a little day off.
All right, boy, you're such a sweet guy.
Yeah, that's me, the sweet guy helping out Malinoff.
Gotta watch those sweet guys, though. Yeah.
And the lovely Joan Jones back there through the like 5 layers of glass.
Yeah.
Joan, good morning.
Hello, Jay.
Gosh, you and I chatted just briefly before we started things here. And we've all, and I will do it here on the air as well. We have to do the obligatory. So, how was your Christmas? And just kind of finding out what all went down. So, Joan, you have family in the area, so you were able to spend time with family yesterday.
Yeah, I got to spend time with my son and his wife and our year-and-a-half-old granddaughter, which is just, seeing Christmas through a kid's eyes again is just magical. Yeah. So, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and, at a year and a half, they kind of know something fun's going on, but not really sure exactly what it is just yet.
Right.
My wife and I, we have a 2.5-year-old grandson who is in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And, of course, we couldn't be there, so did the FaceTime.
Yes. Thank goodness for FaceTime.
Yeah, that's pretty darn cool.
Did that with the rest of our family, too. So, yeah, totally get it.
So the granddaughter, the lone grandchild, or do you have
No,
others?
we have more. So we have another grandchild up in Maryland and one on the way here in Murfreesboro.
Yeah,
so,
well, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have quite the grandchild crew at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah, and but families are so transient these days in terms of being spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
That's certainly the case with my family. So getting everybody in one spot with people's schedules, and I got to work, and that, that's so difficult these days.
Is.
The days of like when I was real little, living around grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles and cousins, and everybody was
within
nearby.
A few block radius, right?
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen anymore.
I know. And when you're a little kid, you think it's going to be that way forever.
Forever, yep, for sure.
And in looking back, I think many of us can say that those times when your grandparents, quite frankly, were still around, and your cousins or brother, what have you, were still there. Those time periods went by so quickly that you really, looking back now, wish you had savored those moments more.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
But anyway, Mason, man, I know you're the hardest working man in radio. I know you were here yesterday for a while, right?
Yeah, I was here from the bright old time in the morning, right around now, until about noon, and then I got to go over to my parents' house, which was nice.
Yeah, all right.
Got to go say hi with them, and then the brothers met us there. We had a big brunch, and I got to open some presents.
Oh,
nothing too bad.
Yeah, any cool presents?
Got a new bicycle. No, I'm just kidding. Got some clothes. Got some clothes. It's all I could ask for this year. Yeah. I know it's weird growing up now that it's like I look at clothes and I'm like, yes, I needed those.
Oh, wow.
I had too many holes in my socks.
That's right. Yeah,
See, my kids always give me heck about giving them socks for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, or the Donald Trump boxer shorts, those those maybe don't go over so well with other members of the family, perhaps.
It's like, that was an interesting choice. I don't know if I want to see that every morning.
Well, later this morning, I want to get into some of the discussions And I would love to hear from our listeners that may want to share some stories or scenarios about family divides, perhaps, at holiday over this past election. You know, we hear these stories about families being uninvited to stuff because they know you voted for Trump. It seems like Democrats are more apt to do that. Well, the research shows that to be the case, that Democrats are more apt to feel that way about family members that vote for Trump or vote Republican in general. So we'll have some stories and some interesting data. At least I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's sad also that we have come to a point where you let politics divide your family? I mean, come on. Anyway, we will get to some of that here this morning on Nashville's Morning News. Again, I'm Jay Harper. As I said earlier, the spinning roulette wheel. All right, who's going to get up at 3 a.m. on the day after Christmas and try not to run off too many of Dan's listeners? You know, I think they just, we'll let Harper do it. You know, he'll get up and there's not as many listeners on the day after Christmas. So, how much damage can he really do?
Yeah, who is really awake right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting there. Man, I was so excited. Mason, I come into the station. I'm like, gosh, I hope there's coffee. I go walking by the break room. Hey, man, there's a coffee pot sitting on the machine there. All right. So anyway, a little bit later, I go check it out. Yeah, there was coffee from 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, ice cold. I think it's been sitting there since Tuesday.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So.
Don't you love it? It's a nice chilling welcome back into the station for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I got the coffee fired up, and I tend to make it a little strong, and I actually made it a bit too strong for myself. It's kind of like used motor oil, but nonetheless, it does the trick. All right. Joan, I have been doing traffic. Well, there wasn't traffic yesterday, but, I did morning and afternoon traffic on Monday, Tuesday.
There is none.
And it was like, I felt kind of silly in one respect, but, it's the kind of thing I was telling my wife. But you let us not have traffic reports, and there would have been some major snafu.
Yeah, of course, yes.
And people would have said, well, how come there were no traffic reports? Well, I'll be doing afternoon traffic today.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and then, hey, get this. I will also be on 95.5 Nash Icon, one of our country stations, tonight from 7 to midnight. And then I come back here.
And you have the nerve to call Mason the hardest working guy in radio?
I was about to say, you're putting me to shame. Holy, wow.
Yeah, 7 to midnight tonight, and then I'm back here tomorrow morning.
I think you got me beat,
5
Jay.
a.m. And
Mr. J. Harper, you take that title right now.
I do the same thing tomorrow. I got this show, and then afternoon traffic, and then 7 to mid over on the country station.
So you're sleeping on the couch in the program director's office?
No, not quite. I have rented a room, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm staying, down the street. And I was kind of weird about walking here at, 4 in the morning. Should I... as I'm walking, I'm thinking, man, I should have brought my pistol. It's like, you just don't know. But anyway, all went well. Hey, we do, though, speaking of traffic, kind of, sort of, we do need to get to the obligatory report this time of the morning. Let's turn now to Joan Jones and find out what, if anything's happening traffic-wise.
Yeah, really, again, there's nothing going on. Now, I am seeing a little bit of delay on Murfreesboro Pike. This is south of East Thompson Lane. So maybe check things out there. Take a little extra time to get around in that area. Also, keep an eye on the airport areas all day, and we'll be doing that for you because a lot of folks are going to be heading to the airport to make their getaway or to, head back home for the holidays. So that area around 40 and Donaldson, that may get delayed and, busy today as the day goes on. But we'll keep you updated. We've got traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All righty, Joan. Thank you much. Yeah, Joan, I guess they're saying that today and tomorrow, perhaps some of the, if not the busiest travel days of the year.
Yep. Yep, going to be busy out there.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that my wife and I, we didn't go anywhere. We didn't do much of anything for the holiday yesterday and the day before. But Tuesday, folks that were trying to fly on American Airlines, right, they got a rather rude awakening as they had some kind of technical difficulty. It makes you wonder, I haven't, unless Joan has, been able to get more detail on exactly what the deal was with American Airlines on Tuesday, as folks, Christmas Eve, and people are trying to get places, and American Airlines was kind of dead in the water there for a while with some kind of technical difficulty.
It was a software glitch, something that didn't allow them to check pilots in and use their weight classifications and they use some software to move around stuff in the cargo hold of airplanes to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed. They weren't able to use those systems. So all of that caused them to just, have a ground stop. It was probably a couple of hours of ground stop before they got things running again. But by that time, it begins a domino effect.
Exactly.
All across the country, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, it was a little messy on Christmas Eve day.
Yeah, that coupled with the fact that the Northeast did not have the greatest weather.
Right. Right.
Which certainly complicates things as well. So, yeah, at least it wasn't like that Southwest Airlines snafu from a couple of years ago. And my wife and I, we got caught up in that to where we did like a lot of people. We rented a car and drove to our destination because Southwest just went kaput for like days. So at least the American Airlines passengers weren't stranded for, an entire day, hopefully, or multiple days. It did only last a couple of hours. But as you say, Joan, the domino effect, man. It's like, okay, here we go. And we all know that whenever they tell you of course, if the airlines are kind enough to let you know what the heck's going on, how many of us have sat in the, in the waiting area at the concourse and they just say flight's delayed and you don't know what's going on, no detail, no information, and you sit there. If the airline says we're going to be, 15 minutes, 30 minutes late, what have you, double or triple that. It's been my experience. Rarely do you trust what the airlines are telling you in terms of delays. But nonetheless, we hope everybody has been able to get where they've needed to go without too much of a hassle. Now, I drove in, as I said, I'm kind of doing a number of different things here at Cumulus over the next couple of days. And, hey, I love it. I'm not complaining. But I went ahead and rented a hotel room. I live in Murfreesboro. And because I'm kind of cutting things close and in terms of air times for various stations and whatnot, I rented a hotel room down the street, drove in last night about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I was surprised how many vehicles were on the road that time of night. But, of course, coming from Murfreesboro, let's face it, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, it doesn't make any difference. Number one, there's traffic. Number two, there's going to be a wreck. And that was the case last night as I was, thankfully, it looked like just a minor fender bender and no one was hurt, thankfully. But, yeah, I'm sitting there 7:30 last night at a dead stop on 24 going, here it is Christmas, and there's a wreck on 24. I mean, is there ever a day or time when it seems like you don't get caught up in an accident on 24 or many of the other Nashville interstates? But 24, I first moved to Nashville in 1985. This was pre-Titans, pre-Predators, so obviously pre-arena, pre-stadium. I mean, Nashville was still just a big old town back in 1985. And the traffic sucked then. And there were about 500, 600,000 people in the metro at that time. We haven't added any more interstates. We did add the bypass, Hendersonville. That came around there, I guess, in the 80s or 90s or whenever it was. And I lived out there. there was a time when you just had to go up Gallatin Road, which, turned into Johnny Cash Parkway and all. That was the only way in and out of the Hendersonville area and subsequently Gallatin as well. So anyway, they've added the bypass and they've added 440. That was not here when I originally arrived. So, that helps connect all these interstates. 840 was not even thought of. So we have, I guess, added some more roadways to help alleviate the traffic, but not to the degree where it can accommodate, what are we now, 1.2 mil in population in the metro, something like that? So, but yeah, it is so frustrating at times. The days of, I'll just run, as I say, I live in Murfreesboro. Yeah, I'm going to run into the station real quick. Our station down here on Music Road, just off of Division, Demonbreun, the area here. Yeah, I'll run down to the station for a minute. Yeah. Yeah, you just cannot predict what's going to happen. You have to add so much time, it seems, to your commute just, to pad it. And for those of us in radio, and I know other folks, their employment requires them, to be on time at a certain place. For us here at WTN, it's not, hey, I got stuck in traffic. And, it happens. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but, that's the last phone call you want to make to your boss. Is it? I got stuck on 24 and couldn't get in here on time. I'm Jay Harper once again, sitting in for the award-winning and a hell of a nice guy, Dan Mandis, here on Nashville's Morning News. We will take a break, but we're going to find out what's happening in the world of news out there. And for that, let's check in real quick with Joan Jones.
Yeah, Jay, some mystery surrounding that crash of a passenger plane in Kazakhstan yesterday. Also, how the Army helped soldiers stationed at Fort Campbell feel like they were home for the holidays. Those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
All right, rock and roll. Yeah, getting something a little up tempo with a beat there. I've been in radio almost 47 years, Mason.
No.
Yeah, man. I was in high school when I started anyway, and I still have great hearing. You know, most guys my age that have been around this as long as they have, they're wearing hearing aids. But but my wife thinks I need hearing aids.
What?
The way, because I do like stuff loud, always have, even though my hearing is fine. But I like the TV loud, and of course she throws a fit. Oh my God, turn that down. Well, Joan, is that a guy thing? I mean, does your husband like the TV loud or louder than you do?
Well, we're engaged in a current battle over who has the worst hearing. So yeah, I accuse him of listening to things too loud. He accuses me of not always hearing what he's saying,
Yeah, typical husband and wife stuff. Yeah.
But I think we're both going to go get our hearing checked out this year,
Well, hey, I tell you what, let's go ahead and check out what's going on news-wise here this morning, as it is now 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning. It's 5:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 50 degrees, overcast for now, but we're going to end up with a nice day and then some pretty wet weather will move in for our weekend. The details coming up here in just a moment. Well, this morning, authorities are working to determine the cause of a plane crash in Kazakhstan on Christmas Day that killed dozens of people.
Cabin shows passengers staying calm even after oxygen masks dropped. Russian authorities claim a bird strike took the plane down, leading to engine failure and an emergency landing attempt. Bird strikes are not uncommon, but in this case, aviation experts are skeptical that a bird strike is to blame, pointing out the tail of the plane was torn off and turned upside down.
ABC's Andrew Dimbert reporting there. Soldiers who stayed on base at Fort Campbell this week were treated to a little bit of homemade Christmas, thanks to a group of volunteers who turned what's called the Warrior Zone into a Christmas wonderland.
I'm a mom and a grandma, so, it's like they're not home, so they need to have that home, to be, and that's what we are. We're trying to make it homey for them.
Yeah, they were treated to homemade lasagna, presents, and Christmas movies to make it feel a little more like home for the holidays. Well, the first night of Hanukkah was celebrated last night, the holiday that marks the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BC. In Washington, D.C., the lighting of the 30-foot national menorah on the ellipse. Now, it is rare, but this year, Hanukkah landed on the calendar at the same time as Christmas. Well, that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Really no delays this morning. You'll just want to travel extra cautiously on 40 as you're headed out to the airport this morning. That's because there's going to be a lot of traffic. A lot of folks are heading home after the holiday. So expecting the busiest day at the holiday at the airport today. So that may cause some traffic jams around that area. And also just note that we have no extra lane closures for road work this week. All the way through the 1st of January at midnight. That's the T-Dot holiday. So that's the good news for traveling this morning. And we've got traffic every 10 minutes for you every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Back we are on Nashville's Morning News. I'm Jay Harper. Yes, Dan Mandis. Now, you could say, well, Dan's taking time off. Well, I guess in one respect he is. He's been doing that overnight red-eye radio gig. So, but, let's face it, many times he will still come in here and do the 5 to 9 on Super Talk. But he is just doing the red-eye radio overnight. Now, Mason, I forgot, but apparently today is Dan's birthday.
Well, hot dog.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking through some of my old email here.
Yeah.
And how here at the station they send out the
they sent out the big list of everybody's birthdays
for the month. Dan Mandis. Happy birthday if he's still, maybe he's driving home I think he did his gig from home this month. Anyway, he may be listening. If he is.
Making sure we're not messing up his show.
Anyway. Well, according to people on the on the super text line, we're doing that. But anyway, you can't please everyone. But again, happy birthday, Dan Mandis. It's been a heck of a year for Dan, man. Winning that Marconi Award, becoming a grandfather, and there's not a better guy on the airwaves, nicer dude, better guy than our friend Dan Mandis. So, happy birthday, Dan. Hopefully he'll maybe get some rest and then maybe have a little celebration today. Speaking of the super text line and, all of the texting and stuff on, on our YouTube, on the Super Talk TV, on YouTube and all, you see all the commentary and we love it. It's so great these days to be able to communicate with your listeners. Certainly wasn't always that way. It was just the phone, man, and that was it. But nowadays, so many cool ways to communicate with the folks out there that are indeed listening. And, it never fails. I was talking about traffic and lanes and the addition of, certain throughways here in the Nashville area over the last, like I say, I moved here almost 40 years ago, 39 years ago. And things have certainly changed in a myriad of ways around this particular part of Middle Tennessee. But boy, all you got to do is mention traffic and boy, the texting and the communication, man. If you want people to communicate with you, all you have to do is mention traffic on the programs. And people certainly want to sound off on all that. And hey, I hear you, I feel you. We all end up sitting in traffic jams, these mystery jams at times. You're sitting there, you've come to a dead stop. Okay, what's going on? And then all of a sudden you start just, You start going, you're either going 60 or you're at a dead stop. It's like, well, what's this all about? Anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. Apparently, Dan's Red Eye Radio this morning was a replay, so good for him. He did it Monday and Tuesday, and apparently they had a replay.
I think today's his
morning.
birthday, right?
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that here just a bit ago.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I know. You're back there doing your job instead of sitting here listening to me ramble on. But here we are the day after Christmas. I'm sure Dan probably grew up being told that Christmas gifts were also his birthday gift. Little cough there. But so, my mom, God rest her soul, she was a New Year's Eve baby. Her birthday was December 31st. She said it was the suckiest day to have a birthday for a number of reasons. Number one, as I was saying, she was always told that, when she was given a Christmas gift, that's for your birthday too. But she also said that when it came time to have a party, she always felt kind of slighted. It was not a birthday party so much as it was a New Year's Eve party. So I kind of do feel for the folks that have these birthdays around Christmas in particular. So we feel you. Christmas Day traditions, Christmas traditions in your family. Do you have any that you really, really enjoyed as a kid growing up with maybe certain Christmas or holiday, Hanukkah, whatever the case may be, certain traditions that you've tried to carry on as you've grown older and started your own family, perhaps? Is it as easy, or not that it was ever, quote unquote, really easy, I guess, but have you found it to be difficult, perhaps, to carry on the traditions, if you had any, growing up around holiday time? Were there certain meals that you prepared together, or maybe somebody in the family read, 'Twas the night before Christmas to all the younger children in the family? Traditions of that nature. I'm a pretty I enjoy traditions and history, and I like to be able to continue with certain traditions. I know there are many that may think, well, some of that stuff's old-fashioned. Well, there's nothing wrong in creating new traditions as time goes on. Mason, were there certain things growing up at holiday that you kind of felt were traditions and you look forward to every year?
Well, every Christmas Eve, we would go to my church and for a big story that my pastor would host. So my pastor's a writer, or the pastor at the time was a writer. His name is Robert J. Morgan, and he would write Christmas stories every year. Yeah, I love him.
That name is familiar.
Yeah.
I love him. He's a splendid person, great human being. He's traveling around the world right now, speaking at different places, and sorry, I'm sick today. He would write a Christmas story every year for Christmas Eve, and so we'd all show up. He'd read it. It had a big Christmas hearty kind of story about the season and whatnot, and kind of brought everybody together. And then we'd go over to my grandmother's house and we'd have some big meal that she prepared for the evening.
Yeah.
So it was a great time. Always looked forward to it until she passed away.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, you cherish those traditions or just those times with family. Not necessarily always just around holiday, but when I was real little, living in Texas, I was born in Victoria, Texas, down there in the southeastern part of the state, and then moved to New Orleans when I was 10 years old, bruh. Anyway, but when I was little down in Texas, I had all the family around. I mean, every Sunday we would go to Grandma's house, and she'd cook either chicken and dumplings or some kind of biscuits or something. And boy, that was a fun thing to look forward to, you know. But that didn't last all that long,
Yeah.
you know. By the time I'm 10, move away, and I never did that again. So again, just cherishing those moments, man. And as you get older, you certainly come to do that.
Yeah, nostalgia hits hard around this time of year, for sure.
Yeah, it certainly can. All right, again, we've been saying that we feel kind of silly talking about traffic on a day like today. Again, I did morning and afternoon traffic on Monday and Tuesday, and, thankfully there wasn't really anything to talk about, but we talked about it anyway. And let's check in with our good pal Joan Jones to see if the traffic is still cooperating this morning at 5:45.
So we do not have any delays to speak of this morning. Things are looking really good on 40. They're looking fine on 24 as well this morning. You may have some delays around mall areas as the malls begin to open up this morning and folks start to return their packages. And you may have some extra delays out at the airport as well. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All righty, Joan, thank you very, very much. As we were saying earlier, as soon as you don't start mentioning traffic, something will go down, and we will regret not having the traffic reports. Now, Joan had mentioned how, the malls will be opening up here before too long, in another few hours. And we keep hearing, and it's true, that online shopping has certainly replaced in-person shopping in many, many ways. It is estimated that 48% of this year's holiday shoppers did everything online. Or at the very least, maybe selected and purchased things online and then went to the location to pick it up if they didn't, have it shipped to them. But apparently, in-person shopping has made somewhat of a comeback this holiday season. Record spending. Online shopping, of course, still the biggest hit, but in-person shopping, according to the National Retail Federation, predicts they've said that nearly half of all shoppers will go back to department and discount stores to knock out their shopping lists. So, has that been you? Have you felt like you want to go back and do the in-person shopping? I know for many people, especially on Black Friday, when you've got family together at the house for Thanksgiving, I know oftentimes over the years it's been kind of, we were talking about holiday traditions. I know many families, they kind of had a tradition, and not to be sexist here, but the guys on Friday, Black Friday, many of them, they're going to hang around the house and just be slugs and watch football all day, while many of the ladies will have a time to be together and go shopping for Black Friday. It's kind of a tradition for a lot of women over the years. But a lot of people have gotten away from that. We've been hearing, good grief, Joan had it this morning, and you've probably been hearing, some bozos started shooting at the Walmart in Clarksville. Yesterday, the day, I guess it was Christmas Eve perhaps, but believe me, I understand. How many times do we hear about shootings at shopping malls? It does make you want to reconsider at times going out and doing much of anything. And what is it about shopping centers or stores or malls that make people want to pull out a gun and settle a dispute that way? It's certainly disturbing. So, the desire to just kind of stay at home and do your shopping online, not fight the traffic, not have to worry about some idiot breaking out a firearm and just shooting people for the heck of it. Yeah, it certainly is. Gives one pause. I will admit, it certainly certainly can make you reconsider things. So again, I'm Jay Harper, happy to be sitting in here early on this day after the big day, Christmas Day, and of course Hanukkah, coincidentally beginning yesterday. So we certainly send our greetings to folks celebrating Hanukkah. I believe there are 8 days to that, if I'm not mistaken. So we certainly want to send out those good wishes. Here's Nathan on the super text line saying that the Friday after Thanksgiving used to be traditionally the start, if I'm looking at this right, used to be the start of squirrel and rabbit hunting season. So, all right.
I've got some squirrels around my house. They can use some hunting.
Okay. So, yeah, the hunting tradition, I guess you could say that's a tradition for some folks, I suppose. Getting out and doing some hunting on the day after Thanksgiving. Gosh, I haven't been hunting in years. Again, living in South Texas when I was a little kid, we did live out in the country for a time. There near Victoria, Texas, where I was born. That's down kind of near Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca, down that area. Anyway, we lived out in the country, and we raised bird dogs. We had English setters, pointers, and used to do the quail and the dove hunting when I was a kid. My dad was real big into that. And, man, I can remember being 6 and 7 years old trying to keep up with him and the bird dogs down there in South Texas. But, man, I have not been hunting since then. So a good, 50 years or so. I know a lot of people are into deer hunting. I have no problem with people hunting deer. I understand the need to do that, actually for the benefit of the herds. But I just don't. I don't have the heart, man, to look at those beautiful animals and pull the trigger. That's just me. Again, I have no problem eating the venison. I have no problem eating the deer sausage. And I have no problem with people doing the deer hunting, but, man, I just can't bring myself to do it, Anyway. Am I anti-American? I'm not a real man in some people's eyes. You big wimp, Well, you don't have to kill a deer to be a real American man. Now, I will do the bird hunting. Went squirrel hunting a few times. The gentleman, Nathan, talking about how it used to be traditionally the start of squirrel and rabbit hunting season in past years, the day after Thanksgiving. But, yeah, traditions. Again, getting back to that. It's so hard, as we were mentioning before, families are so transient these days. You've got families spread out all over the place. There was a time when, and I know many families are still this way, when everybody pretty well stayed put. You were born in a town, you went to school there, you went to high school there, you married the girl from in town, got a job there, and, but let's face it, so many things like that are a thing of the past. Perhaps the biggest thing of the past is, finding a good, decent, well-paying job, and you worked there for 40 years and retired. Who does that anymore? I know some people still kind of do, but it is a rarity these days. How often does it get to be where you've been with a company 30, 40 years, maybe you're making some pretty decent money by then, got a pretty good pension, and then they fire you? We hear stories about that quite a bit. Again, I'm Jay Harper. Happy birthday, Dan Mandis. As he celebrates a birthday today, we want to again give him a well-deserved shout-out. Again, I'll be with you till 9 o'clock this morning and the same for tomorrow as well. All right, we'll go ahead and head to a break. But first of all, we're going to check in with Joan Jones once again here at 5:55, see what's going on in the world of news.
Well, what really happened that knocked an airplane out of the sky over Kazakhstan? There are some questions. And if you've got a real Christmas tree, we've got the skinny on where you can recycle them. Got those stories coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Well, good morning to you. 6 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The eyes of the world are on a passenger plane crash in Kazakhstan yesterday. There's some mystery as to what happened there to the plane that took off from Azerbaijan's capital en route to Russia. More than 30 people were on board that survived.
The Azerbaijan Airlines plane had more than 60 passengers and crew on board. It went down near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan. It was met there by an immediate emergency response. Video appeared online showing survivors pulling people from the wreckage. Why the plane crashed is one mystery. Russian state media said it diverted to Aktau because of a bird strike, but Azerbaijan's president said it was because of weather. He's declared a national day of mourning and investigations underway. Brian Clark, ABC News.
In Gwinnett County, Georgia, a woman says she feels blessed to be alive after her home burned to the ground on Christmas Eve day. Anissa Dallas is her name. She says her fiance alerted her to that fire.
It was flames. He grabbed a fire extinguisher. He ran and told us we got to get out the house. They couldn't even save my mother and my brother's ashes.
No, it's not. That's not Kelsey's house. You're right.
But they with me in my heart.
Now, she got out. Her son also got out of the house in time. Fire officials believe the fire started in the attic of the home, which, by the way, is a total loss. The flu is making a comeback as 13 states, including Tennessee, reported a high or very high level of flu-like illness. The Tennessee Department of Health is saying outpatient visits are up 4% now. The CDC, though, says it's too early to tell how good of a match the flu vaccine will be this year. Highway Patrol saying that Santa must have lost a gift during his Christmas Eve deliveries. They've got a box that was wrapped in Christmas wrapping paper found along the side of the road on I-40 westbound in Cookeville. The tag says that it's from Santa. THP has taken phone calls from anyone who thinks they may know who that gift was meant for. And if you've got a real Christmas tree and you're wondering what to do with it now that the holiday has passed, Nashville says you can start dropping them off today for recycling. There are 13 locations, most at Metro Parks and Living Earth locations. They'll accept the trees through Valentine's Day. And in Clarksville, drop-offs start at Heritage Park today, but only through January 6th. Now, just remember to undecorate those trees before you bring them to the drop-off locations. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Yeah, still seeing no big delays this morning, so that's the great news. You do have some stop-and-go traffic along the areas of Murfreesboro Pike this morning, but really no big delays to speak of as you're traveling on that roadway. Even 24, 65, they're all doing well this morning. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's right. We talk news. I'm Jay Harper, talking for Dan Mandis this morning on his birthday. Yeah, filling in for Dan here on Nashville's Morning News. Good morning. 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. I know a lot of folks still have to work today, the day after Christmas. Many people, I guess, do get the luxury, if you will, of getting perhaps today and tomorrow off, really making it a nice, long holiday weekend. And hey, good for you. Congratulations. We've been talking about holiday travel a little bit in the first hour and some of the trials and tribulations. You know, you had American Airlines with some kind of software glitch there for a few hours on Christmas Eve of all days that really fouled up traffic on, they had a ground stop. I mean, they just halted traffic altogether on American Airlines there for a while. Perhaps you heard about this very disturbing incident, and there are so many questions surrounding this. A dead body found lodged in the wheel well of a United Airlines plane when it landed in Maui on Christmas Eve. Now, this thing took off from Chicago's O'Hare Airport a little before 10 in the morning on Christmas Eve, and it landed in Maui a little after 2 o'clock Maui time. So what are they? They're like 5 hours behind us, I believe, behind Central Time. They're in Hawaii. So you had almost a... Good grief, 8-hour flight, something like that? And they discovered this body in the landing gear, the wheel well, of this Boeing 787. And it's an area that can only be accessed from outside the plane. It's not like anybody climbed down to it from inside the plane. Officials, they say they are just at a loss to explain how this person was able to access that portion of the aircraft. Officials haven't really announced much about this other than to say it was a guy. The body was male. So again, that just presents so many questions. First of all, the security. I mean, stop and think about that. I mean, that could just as well been somebody planting a bomb in the wheel well of this flight, of this aircraft. We've heard stories like this over the past few years of people doing this, trying to hitch a ride on the outside of an aircraft. But who in their right mind thinks this is a good idea? Obviously, I don't think they are in their right mind to attempt something like this. But what the heck happens where somebody can access the exterior of an aircraft like that unless they work for an airline or maybe are part of a security company or something that would, have access to the tarmac like that? But that is just, who thinks that they're going to survive something like that? That is just very, very, very disturbing. I don't know. It just boggles the mind what some people think that they're going to be able to get away with. Again, I'm Jay Harper filling in for Dan Mandis here on Nashville's Morning News. 10 minutes past 6 o'clock here on the day after the big day for many folks. And again, I realize a lot of people still have to work today, especially in certain professions. As we give a shout out to all of the folks that are in first responder careers, police, fire, so on and so forth, EMTs, medical personnel, and of course those utility workers. Thankfully, we've got pretty mild weather here in Middle Tennessee over the Christmas holiday. Kind of overcast out there now, 50 degrees. And it sounds like we're going to get wet over the weekend as the rain starts to move in. At the start of the show here earlier this morning, I had mentioned how we're seeing stories about families that have been divided at Christmas time, Thanksgiving as well, over who in the family voted for whom, or whatever's grammatically correct there. But I still find, number one, I find that sad that you would let those kinds of differences divide your family. I mean, it's your family, for crying out loud. Now, my wife and I, we're pretty darn conservative. My wife, frankly, she's probably more conservative than I am. We have a son who turns 35. So, he's got a family. He's the father of our 2.5-year-old grandchild. He grew up in a conservative home. Our daughter, same thing. She's almost 31, lives down in Charleston, South Carolina, where we lived for a time. So both of our kids were, they were around our conservative thought, our conservative ideals growing up. Our son, we're so proud of both of our kids. As parents, all you can really ask for is that your kids grow up to be good people, productive members of society. On that note, my wife and I, we scored big time. Our son graduated from the Citadel down in Charleston, South Carolina. It's the military academy of South Carolina. Fine school, wonderful traditions, and for the most part, a fairly conservative, quote unquote, school. So, again, our son got his bachelor's and his master's from the Citadel. But these days, he is Joe Liberal now. He was not always that way. And okay, free country, right? We still love our son, and we still, we did the FaceTime thing yesterday to watch the grandchild tear into the presents and stuff. We've not let our political differences interfere with getting with our family, for crying out loud. Now, what turned him more liberal? Well, frankly, I think it was his wife. Yeah, she is from California. And I think just to kind of keep peace in the house, he has basically gone over to the dark side. But again, that's his right to do so, and fine. We'll continue this discussion, but let's go ahead and check that traffic, if there is any, here this morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All righty there, Christy. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Jay Harper, in for Dan Mandis here on Nashville's Morning News. I appreciate you hanging with us here this morning. So we've been talking about the family divides over politics. Now, the research, the data shows, at least from some of these surveys, that Democrats are 5 times more likely to uninvite family members for family gatherings based on their political leanings, who they voted for. Again, as I've been mentioning, my son has turned liberal. You know, you mention Trump around him and he snarls. And again, I think it's due to the fact that, his wife's that way. Our daughter, again, she grew up in our conservative home. And, I mean, from a political standpoint, my wife and I, we roll our eyes. It's like, where did this person come from? But, she's a wonderful woman, just the most caring person on the planet, would do anything for anyone. So from that perspective, and, that's ultimately really what counts, is that you raise good people, caring people, as I said, productive members of society. And on that note, hey, thumbs up. But our daughter, her name's Catherine. My son's name is Nick. Our daughter, Catherine, put it this way, if she were not our daughter, I would have unfriended her on Facebook a long time ago. Some of the nutty stuff that she posts, it's like, where does this stuff come from? I'm curious if I know there are. I mean, other families have to, have kind of come to that realization. But, we've not let any of that divide us, quote unquote, as a family. Everybody does what they got to do. I mean, if that's, if not seeing your kids or whatever is what you do to keep yourself sane and not get into big brouhahas over this stuff, well, I guess you do what you got to do. I mean, to each his own. But for my wife and I, we're not going to let any of that separate us in that way. Yesterday on Christmas Day, we talked to our daughter on the phone for, over an hour or so. My daughter calls her mom and subsequently me every Sunday, like clockwork. And there are times she'll be on the phone with us for 3 hours. I mean, there's no way that we're going to let our political beliefs get in the way of some of this stuff. Here's someone on the super text line that says they told some family members not to come to my house because they voted for Harris. And they don't agree with the person's beliefs in abortion and transgenders. Well, hey, I'm with you on the beliefs. And again, you do you. We just don't bring these subjects up when we get together. And I admit at times it's hard to bite your tongue. Are you not being real? Are you not being genuine? Well, not necessarily. I mean, who says you have to talk about all this stuff when you get together? There's so many other things in life that you do have in common with your family. So accentuate that as opposed to all this political stuff. I can remember when my parents were alive and my in-laws were alive, family gatherings could get a little interesting. I'll get into some of that here when we return in just a bit. It's 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Joan, what you got for us at the bottom of the hour?
Well, some new information about the downing of a passenger jet in Kazakhstan. Also, some Nashville store owners are breathing a sigh of relief after some of the roads are open back up after that Christmas Day bombing 4 years ago. Those stories at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Welcome back to Nashville's Morning News. I'm Jay Harper, filling in for Dan Mandis, the birthday boy, here this morning, and I'll be around tomorrow morning as well. Joined with, of course, my buddy Mason Fleming, as well as Joan Jones back there in the newsroom. We've been talking about how sad it is, I think, that many families have let their political division literally divide them as families as well. I mentioned how my son and daughter, both adults, have turned into these flaming liberals. Now, my daughter more so than my son. My son really not all that political. I think he just kind of goes along with the liberal leanings to keep peace in the house because his wife is nuts. But people on the super text line saying that, well, your daughter probably got indoctrinated in college with all her purple-haired friends. And another listener saying basically the same thing. Did your kids go to a university and get brainwashed? Now, my daughter, she never went to college. So she went right from high school into the working world. And again, we are so proud of our kids. You know, I mean, they're amazing people. Our daughter in particular is, well, let me tell you, she's down in Charleston, South Carolina. She's a sheet metal worker and a welder. She runs a sheet metal shop down there
She's
in Charleston.
Awesome.
Yeah. You know, she ain't big as nothing, but boy, she'll tell you to go yourself real quick. You know, she is a strong, a strong young lady, and she has come to be regarded as kind of like the go-to sheet metal worker for a lot of the historic storefronts and facades and whatnot in downtown Charleston, where their historical, architectural review board the qualifications to meet all that stuff are very, very strict. And she has come to be the person that many companies go to because she does such a beautiful job with all that copper metal work and all that stuff. So, I mean, she is, she's quite a young woman, but she is, she is like, we just wonder where did all that come from? Now, folks saying, perhaps being indoctrinated at a university somewhere. We all know that, boy, that is certainly, it's been going on in universities for the last couple of generations, right? Here's a Yale professor, Dr. Amanda Calhoun. Listen to what her opinion is on this particular topic.
If you are going into a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why. To say, I have a problem with the way that you voted. I'm not going to be around you this holiday. I need to take some space for me.
Okay. Well, again, that's everyone's prerogative, I suppose, but I just find it again. It's just me. I find it heartbreaking that you let this kind of stuff divide you from your family. But that's just me. 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning. Now 6:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. It now appears that passenger jet that was headed for Russia and crashed in Kazakhstan over the weekend was the unfortunate victim of war. The plane had been diverted to an area where Moscow's air defenses have battled Ukrainian drones in recent weeks. An aviation security firm says that flight was likely shot down by Russian military air defenses. 38 people were killed. Meantime, Russia hit Ukraine with a new strike on Christmas Day.
Russia launching a barrage of missiles and drone strikes targeting the Ukrainian power grid, leaving 500,000 people without heat in freezing winter conditions and triggering widespread blackouts. People in the capital, Kyiv, left to spend the holiday sheltering in subway stations. President Zelensky posting, Putin deliberately chose Christmas for an attack. What could be more inhumane?
That's ABC's Nicole D'Antonio. In Nashville, more areas are open after the Christmas Day bombing 4 years ago. The south block of 2nd Avenue now reopened to traffic. Construction there wrapped up ahead of schedule. That'll get traffic and foot traffic returning, but business owners like Frank Miller tell Channel 4 they're still struggling.
This is not the end. It's just the beginning of trying to get the street and the businesses back on its feet.
Now, careful traveling in that area, too. There are some new traffic patterns to pay attention to. And a Good Samaritan has returned a stolen box that had been snatched from the porch of an East Nashville home last week. Janet Carr tells News 2 that the box was returned with a note. It said the box was found down the road with the gift still inside. The neighbor said that she found it while walking her dogs. Forbes says Tennessee is the 11th worst state in the nation for porch pirates. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather just ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Yeah, really no delays still to speak of this morning. That's the day after Christmas for you. Things are looking really good on 40, even around the airport still this morning. 24, no problem. Same thing for 65. But as the morning gets going on, you may find some more traffic around that area on 40 near the airport as folks are getting out of town again. So keep that in mind, and we'll keep you updated all day long. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
36 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on this December 26th. I'm Jay Harper, in for the birthday boy, Dan Mandis, the Marconi Award-winning Dan Mandis, the new grandpa, Dan Mandis. It's been a heck of a year for our good friend Dan. And it's an honor to sit here and try not to run off too many of his listeners here on this December 26th, the day after Christmas. Someone on the super text line wondering if I'm creating problems within my family by airing these in-family relationships. Well, hey, I can appreciate that concern, but you know, our two grown adult children, they know how my wife and I feel. You know, it's no secret. Again, we just avoid getting into political matters whenever we're together. And there's no real hidden tension. Again, it's just, you know, we each know how one side of the family feels about all this. Anyway, the super text line, many people weighing in on this. A lot of people kind of expressing my sentiment about how it is kind of heartbreaking and sad that families are divided and breaking up and not speaking to one another over this kind of stuff. Anyway, you know, even ultra-liberal Bill Maher thinks that this kind of thing is ridiculous. Let's see. All right, need some audio here. Let's try that again.
Way back.
Here we go.
Back when? Yeah. A guy who crossed lines politically. Ooh, the worst thing you could ever do, be friends with a Republican? Call 911.
Yeah.
This is what I hate about the left. Just the idea that, you know, cut your family off for Thanksgiving if they voted for the wrong guy. Well, off, you.
Okay. Of course, Bill Maher can't talk, he can't say anything without using the profanity and the F words. But anyway, I mean, even your ultra-liberals are thinking all of this stuff is certainly ridiculous. Again, I really don't want to beat a dead horse here about all this, but I just find it disturbing. You know, if you have a story about this within your family, I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, we've got the phone lines open. 737-9986. 737-9986. If you want to weigh in on this stuff, whatever your opinion may be, whether you don't want people at your house that you don't agree with, again, it's your business. It's your right to do whatever you want in your own home, or elect to go or not go to somebody else's home over a holiday. But again, if you want to weigh in on all of this, we'd love to hear from some folks that are out there up early on this December 26th, the day after Christmas. We had given shout outs to so many different professions that are out there working on a day like today, which, while today is not a quote unquote holiday, many people taking today off, and tomorrow for that matter. And hey, congratulations, more power to you. You know, it's been a long year. You know, it's been a strenuous year. You know, talking about the politics, it's been stressful in many ways. This has been the most tumultuous election year in my memory. You know, so it's been stressful. That's for sure. Let's go ahead and check in with Rob, who's right here in Nashville. He wants to weigh in on things. Good morning, Rob. Appreciate you calling in.
Hey, good morning. Merry
Yes, sir.
Christmas.
Yeah, man, same to you. See, we can still say that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, even though, like at the stroke of midnight last night, all of the music radio stations that were playing Christmas music, it stops. But we can still say Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you as well, Rob. What's on your mind?
So a couple things. One, you were talking about the guy that climbed into the wheel well.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, a lot of those people. I'm not an aviation expert. I did major in it in college, but anyway, a lot of those people don't understand airplanes, and they think, I get in the wheel well, and I'll have oxygen to breathe and all that. They don't understand that those places aren't heated. They're not, they don't have air supply to them. They don't know. They're just trying to, get out of a bad situation.
Yeah, yeah. But, and I hear where you're coming from, but it's not like these folks are getting in the wheel well of an aircraft in Nigeria trying to escape whatever, whatever life may or may not be like for them in Nigeria. I mean, this happened. Somebody got into this wheel well in Chicago at O'Hare Airport, But, yeah, I'm with you. I guess people just don't realize, this aircraft's going to be 39,000 feet in the air. You think there's any oxygen up there? And you're going 400 miles an hour. I don't see how anyone thinks they're going to survive that.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, Rob, I appreciate you checking in. You got anything else you want to pass along?
On the family side, my wife and I and our kids are kind of the same way. We have a blended family, so one of hers is liberal, one's conservative. Mine, two are liberal, one's kind of on the conservative side. We just, it's not a written rule, but not even an unwritten rule. We just don't talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know there are some people that think that that's just not being honest with oneself, but why create turmoil? I mean, again, our family approaches all of this pretty much just as you've described.
There's a time and a place for everything, and honestly, family gatherings, that ain't it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I'm with you, Rob. No. Hey, I appreciate you checking in and appreciate you listening, man. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you. Thanks, Rob.
You too.
All right, bud. So, again, we welcome your phone calls if you just kind of want to weigh in on this particular subject or any subject for that matter. I mean, it's kind of a, here we are the day after Christmas and kind of a free-form Thursday here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Well, I'm looking at the Super Text line, and of course you can send us your thoughts there as well, as, if you'd rather not get on the air and chat like Rob just did. 737-9986. Go ahead and fire off a text to us if you have some thoughts on any of the things that we've been discussing. Here's someone saying that we're assuming the person was in the wheel well voluntarily. I don't know. Did somebody put him up there at gunpoint? I doubt it, but, again, I'm not trying to be a smart jerk here. But anyway, I just find that really perplexing how anyone thinks they can survive any of that. Well, I'm seeing here that apparently there's a major crash on 840 at exit 61. Don't know if Christy's going to have that particular bit of information. This coming from a listener, but let's go ahead nonetheless and check in with traffic here this morning at 6:45. And again, this is from a listener, so an unconfirmed report about a crash on 840 at exit 61. Often from someone, trust me, that does the traffic reports. Oftentimes, the data does not come in as quickly as, someone like this particular listener reporting it. They're saying traffic backed up a couple of miles. Bunch of police cars, ambulances, fire truck. Yikes, that doesn't sound good. So we certainly hope that there are no severe injuries there. Again, I'm Jay Harper filling in for Dan Mandis as we've been chatting about a number of different topics here this morning. And again, we welcome your phone calls. We're going to head out to, my neck of the woods. That would be Murfreesboro, where Jerry is checking in. Good morning and Merry Christmas, Jerry.
Merry Christmas. So I heard you talking about with like the family. I'm the oldest of 5, and I have a twin brother and sister. My brother is really, really conservative, and my sister is really liberal, and he will not talk to her.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame, but so it kind of goes both ways, too, as well. She kind of shies away from talking to him as well, but I would say it's probably more his fault than it is hers. And as far as the rest of the family, most of the rest of us are all conservative, and we'll still just kind of, like the last caller said, just kind of shy away from politics when my sister's around.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jerry. In your mind, were there maybe problems between your brother and sister before the whole political thing reared its ugly head? I mean, is there something more going on there, maybe?
No, actually, I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. It's just
yeah,
something that I guess.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to kind of stereotype things, but it seems like, at least from the information I'm seeing from folks on the super text line here, it seems like when there is a rift in the family, that usually it's the woman. If it's a male-female thing, the woman is typically more liberal and the men are the conservative. So I know that's not always the case, but, as I said earlier, and thank you, Jerry, for the call. I appreciate it. As I said earlier, my wife and I both pretty conservative, and she's more conservative than I am. I mean, she is, there are certain topics where she is steadfast against certain things, and I'm a little more open about, a little more flexible, I guess, is the way to put it. So again, it's not always the case of, the women being more liberal, but apparently that wreck on Ace 840, they're exiting people off of exit 57 there. And again, these are unofficial reports. Down in Murfreesboro around exit 61 on 840, there's someone saying that Life Flight just took off from Murfreesboro Airport. My goodness. Anyway, so we certainly send, prayers to folks there. Good grief. Again, I'm Jay Harper in for Dan Mandis here this morning on Nashville's Morning News. Appreciate you checking in here. We do have the lines open. If you want to weigh in on some things here this morning, we'll check in with Cecil now, who is kind enough to check in from Smyrna. Cecil, good morning and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Just talking about family for a minute. Well, me and my wife, we kind of spent Christmas to ourselves with kids and nobody around. And, we're getting old now. We were sitting here watching Wheel of Fortune, like my parents used to do.
Yeah, exactly. Or Jeopardy, right?
Yeah, we do just sitting there laughing at each other. So, man, it's just what it's like. But as far as getting together with family gatherings and stuff like that, everyone knows how I feel as far as my views as far as being conservative and everything, and how I support Donald Trump and everything. And I'm sort of like out on the island on my own. No one, absolutely no one in my family back home or abroad, care anything about the way I feel as far as my political views. They all think that I'm crazy though, but when we had the opportunity, when we have had gatherings to get together other than Christmas, and the conversation comes up, people will come to me and say, man, I see on your Facebook, you support Trump and all this stuff. Man, you crazy? Like, what's up with you and all this? And I find the same thing that I see everywhere whenever family members get involved with talking about the political issues. A good majority of the people are uninformed. You can say you don't like a person or you don't believe a person or he's racist, he's this and that, but at the same time, you can't give me the kind of substance on the subject. You can't tell me why. You can't give me a good reason why. There's never a subject as far as policies and everything. They're clueless when it comes to policies and everything, but they don't realize that, don't look at the person, look at the policies and stuff
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Cecil. I mean, it seems that there are so many people that have just bought into the mainstream media's pablum about, Donald Trump, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, just all of these labels, as opposed to just really digging down and investigating policies. I think you're absolutely right.
That's it. And so that's basically, but I stand my ground and, by me, us winning and everything and seeing him implement these policies, it's sort of like the kid on the playground, the ones that picks the fight but can't defend themselves, and you have to step in. This is one of the situations with Donald Trump dealing with him. Everyone's going to prosper, but when he gets in his office and is inaugurated, people are going to prosper from his policies and everything, and they're just going to have to just see the results. But I just hope that they're just so stubborn that they're not going to be able to just deny it. But everyone's going to prosper because all his policies are pro-America. I just think his biggest hurdle that he's going to have is just this inner party, these rhinos and these people that
exactly.
And I'm going to say one thing before you hang up. I know you have
Yes,
nothing.
Yes, sir.
I hope that there are things that he's going to implement that's going to cost money, that's going to cause the deficit to go up because it's going to cost money for one thing, like the border wall. So I hope that these people understand this. We're probably going to have to go back a little bit in order to go forward because some of these policies are going to cost money to clear the border, you get the personnel in there, and hopefully he'll be able to replace some of the finances by doing some of the cuts and everything as far as with the government overspending and everything, though. But I think the Republicans need to get behind him and support him and do what the American people have elected him to do.
Yep.
And get in there and make some policy and challenge changes. And I just hope that happens.
Yeah, I'm with you, Cecil. Here. Thanks again for your insight, buddy. I appreciate you checking in.
Thank you.
Okay now. 99.7 WTN. Good morning. I'm Jay Harper. 6:54 now. And, as Cecil was just alluding to, that he thinks that maybe the deficit may kind of get a little more wonky with some of the things that Trump wishes to do. But keep in mind, he's got Ramaswamy out there and Elon Musk that are going to be heading up this Department of Government, whatever, I'm talking about, the Doge, right, where they're looking for things to cut. So maybe some of these, especially some of these social programs and some of these studies where they're, spending millions to study the sex habits of South American swamp rats and all this other nonsense, that maybe they'll be able to offset a lot of that stuff by getting rid of some of these ridiculous studies, programs, policies. You've got, as I'm sure perhaps many of you have been reading about, a lot of Democrats and some Republicans too. Let's not think the Republicans are trying to not cover their fannies when it comes to protecting some of their pork projects, keeping some of their buddies happy by implementing or being in favor of some of these pork barrel projects. But again, so many of these politicians, before Trump gets in there, man, they're running for cover trying to shore up a lot of these programs because they feel like the axe is coming. I'm Jay Harper filling in for Dan Mandis at 6:56. Let's check in now with Joan Jones to see what's happening at the top of the hour in our news report.
Yeah, up ahead here at 7 o'clock this morning, we've got the latest on that crash of a passenger jet in Kazakhstan. That's coming up at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Schenk. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
7 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The man who sparked a shooting inside a Clarksville Walmart still recovering in the hospital now. 19-year-old LeBron Gibson will go to jail after his release. Here's Channel 4's Lydia Fielder.
Dozens of employees and shoppers forced out of Walmart. Police clearing the building on Fort Campbell Boulevard after reports of a shooting.
I came to Walmart to see if I can get something for a family member, and I can't even do that.
Bobby Boyd said she just moved to Tennessee and was shocked to learn that a possible argument led to shots fired inside the store on Christmas Eve.
People normally don't shoot people over stuff like that.
Clarksville police say this was not an active shooter incident and that the suspect showed a gun before he was shot. Police say the second man was protecting his family.
The second man there has not been charged with any crimes. In Colorado on Christmas Day, somebody called 911 to report a baby still in a car seat along the side of a busy road. Now, that baby boy was only wearing a diaper. He was checked out at the hospital. He is okay. His parents have been charged with felony child abuse. 6 people recovering after a taxi cab hopped a curb and slammed into people walking along the sidewalk in Manhattan on Christmas Day. This man tells ABC News how the crowd leapt into action.
There was a little boy, his leg was underneath the front passenger tire as it was spinning. And then there was a group of people that one gentleman I know went over, got in, shut the car off, got in and shut it off. And then there was a whole group of us that ripped the fender off, lifted the car back. And then that's when I kind of grabbed the little boy, got him over in the corner, realized that what ended up being his mom was underneath.
The boy and his mom are going to be okay. The taxi driver, a 58-year-old, was apparently suffering from a medical episode at the time of that incident. B&A is getting ready for another day of record holiday travel. Today and tomorrow will be the airport's busiest days ever. B&A is asking flyers to arrive early so you can park, check in, get to your gate on time. Also, check with your airline for any delays, especially important since there have been many delays in these past few days. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
It's back to work for investors this morning. After the Dow Jones, the S&P, and NASDAQ composite posted gains on Christmas Eve, futures for the 3 major indexes were pointing to losses to start this day after Christmas. Oil prices have edged upward on hopes of more stimulus from the Chinese government. Brent crude futures finished the day about 0.33% higher. Prepare for higher car prices in the coming year. 1/3 of all cars priced under $30,000 are built in Mexico, and that country and Canada both produce auto parts. President-elect Trump has promised steep tariffs on products from both countries after he's inaugurated. And the bald eagle, prominently featured on American paper money and coins, has at last earned a title that most people thought it already had. Congress in 1782 named the bald eagle the national emblem, but only this week did it become the national bird. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
And that's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Now, as Jay has been talking about, I-40 northbound between Sulphur Springs Road, that's exit 57, and Jefferson Pike, exit 61. It's all closed off there. They're saying police activity. We are suspecting that that's an accident in that area. So, again, it's 840 northbound, Sulphur Springs Road to Jefferson Pike, all closed off this morning. And no other delays really to speak of. Just take a note that TDOT is on a holiday, so there's no new construction zones, no new lane closures, and it'll be that way through January 1st at midnight. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We do have I-26.
Welcome back to Nashville's Morning News. I'm Jay Harper, 8 minutes past 7 a.m. Yeah, filling in for Dan. Dan Mandis celebrating a birthday today. I'll also be here tomorrow as well. Joined by my compadres, Mason and Jones. So glad to have you along as well.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, it's always an honor to sit in this chair where Dan and Chris and Matt and, of course, Brian. And now, of course, we've got Chad there in the afternoon slot. So, again, good to be here. Well, Joan and I both have been trying to keep folks updated on what appears to be a pretty serious accident. I-840 eastbound there in Rutherford County. It's a wreck right before the off-ramp there at exit 61, and they're diverting traffic off there at exit 57. So that does indeed sound like that's pretty serious. So just a heads up there. Well, in case you did not hear, Donald Trump's Christmas greetings. Yeah, I know Christmas was past now, but still, folks have been busy the last couple of days. And Donald Trump did issue a couple of different Christmas greetings. And in fact, he also has included the soon-to-be First Lady in some of those greetings.
A very Merry Christmas.
During the sacred season, Christians celebrate the greatest miracle in human history. More than 2,000 years ago, God sent his only begotten Son to be with us. An angel announced the birth of our Lord and Savior to humble shepherds. He said, I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all of the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger. At Christmas, we thank God for sending us his Son to bring peace to our souls and joy to the world.
During this wonderful time of year, we also give thanks for the brave and selfless Americans who keep us safe. We are forever grateful for the men and women of law enforcement and the heroes of the United States military.
In this holy season, we thank God for his infinite love, and we pray that the light of his glory will forever shine on this magnificent land. On behalf of Melania and the entire Trump family, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Now, do you ever recall Joe Biden doing anything like that? Maybe he did, as far as a Christmas greeting is concerned. And I must admit, it's nice to see and hear Melania as a part of all this. She does seem to be getting out there a little more. And I think in large part it's because during Donald Trump's first administration, their son Barron was still a young guy living at home there in the White House, and it was her number one priority to shield her son from all of the political nonsense. But now that Barron is in college at New York University, it seems like she is kind of getting out there a little more, which I think is a good thing. I know there are people that look down their nose at her, which I think is ridiculous. You hear ugly things like, she has this quote-unquote weird accent. Yeah, this lady with the weird accent, what? She speaks like 5 languages? Yeah. Yeah. So, again, it's nice to hear that. If Joe Biden ever did do a quote-unquote Christmas greeting during his 4 years in office, I'm not aware, maybe he did, but I would be willing to bet that there was very little or no mention of the Christianity like Donald Trump has done in these Christmas greetings. Again, there have been some other Christmas greetings that Mr. Trump has done. So here's another one for you.
To wish everyone a happy, joyous, and wonderful Christmas season. In this holy time of year, Christians everywhere give thanks that over 2,000 years ago, God sent his only Son into the world to be the Savior of all mankind. The birth of Jesus Christ is the true miracle we celebrate each Christmas. He is the ultimate source of our joy, our hope, and our sense of peace and goodwill as we gather with family and loved ones. It is such a great time of the year. This is why we can never stop saying that beautiful phrase, Merry Christmas. This holiday we give thanks for many blessings God has bestowed upon us. We pray for the safety of our men and women in uniform at home and abroad. And we ask God to guide us, give us strength, and watch over us in this pivotal year ahead. With his help, by this time next year, we will be well on our way to making America safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. Once again, Melania and I wish you a very Merry Christmas. God bless you all.
Donald Trump, another one of his Christmas greetings that he issued here a couple of days ago. One thing I found kind of interesting, did you notice the music behind that? It's from Home Alone, So even Donald Trump, as you may remember, he had that brief little cameo in Home Alone 2 when Kevin is stranded in New York City and he runs into Mr. Trump in the lobby of the hotel. But nonetheless, it is just so wonderful and refreshing to hear the positivity. And I think people are certainly feeding off of that positivity as we head into the second Trump administration. Again, I'm Jay Harper, filling in for Dan Mandis on Nashville's Morning News as we check in once again to see what's happening on our roadways at 7:15. Well, again, that's 840 eastbound. I know she said north there, but, the 840 kind of curves northward there. But anyway, that's the direction, 840 eastbound, for what appears to be a fairly serious accident. Again, Jay Harper here, 99.7 WTN, Super Talk. So Donald Trump issuing these Christmas greetings, being very positive. One area, though, that, Mr. Trump, his Christmas greeting did not extend to all those federal death row inmates that Joe Biden has let off the hook. 37 out of 40 violent criminals, killers, rapists, just despicable crimes. And Sleepy Joe, as Donald Trump refers to him, incredibly pardoning these folks, or at least commuting sentences. Mr. Trump says, quote, "I refuse to wish a Merry Christmas to those lucky, quote unquote, souls, but instead will say, go to hell." Yeah, that was, I'm quoting the president-elect there. Again, Biden commuted the sentences of 37 of the 40 people on federal death row. He did this on Monday. And this list includes at least 5 child killers, a number of mass murderers. Now, one of the offenders that he did not commute their sentence was Dylan Roof. You remember that name? He's the idiot that just massacred those folks at that black church in Charleston, South Carolina, a few years ago. And good. I'm glad hopefully that guy will get to meet old Sparky, or however they end up taking care of him. I was in Charleston, South Carolina when that occurred. And perhaps, no perhaps to it, by far the most disturbing news story I ever had to cover. I was right in the middle of that. At that time, I was the bureau chief and morning news anchor for the South Carolina Radio Network. And I was based in Charleston. And I can remember, I got up early anyway, being the morning news anchor. But my phone started exploding about 2 a.m. when that horrendous incident took place. That was just, it was just unfathomable that anybody could be so blatantly targeting people simply because they were black. So the fact that Mr. Biden has seen fit to not pardon that guy, well, great. But it doesn't really, there's something hypocritical there, though, because Biden, who is anti-death penalty, said that he cannot in good conscience allow those executions to take place. Therefore, he commuted the sentences of those convicted killers, rapists, etc. Well, if you're really against the death penalty, like you say you are, why didn't you commute all 40 of them? Well, politics. Now, my guess is, and I may get kind of lambasted for this, but I think the major reason that he did not commute the sentence of Dylan Roof is because all of his victims were black. It was indeed a hate crime, a racist, despicable hate crime. But again, if you're against the death penalty, hey, dude, what difference does it make what race or what have you that your victims are or were? So, again, Donald Trump really coming out and being very demonstrative with the fact that he was not happy at commuting those sentences. 37 of the 40. And as I say, I'm glad that Dylan Roof is not among those 37. As I say, I was in the middle of all that. I was featured on Nancy Grace on her TV show when that horrific incident happened down in Charleston. Was on her show a couple of times to discuss the goings-on down there. I was also, you may recall that one of the victims of that horrific murder was a state representative who was also I believe he was either a deacon or a reverend or what have you there at that church downtown Charleston. But he was a state representative, very, he was a Democrat, but very much respected and, generally considered a really good guy. And at the time, President Obama, he spoke at the funeral for this representative that was killed in that tragedy. And there were representatives from, all over the country, congressional representatives from D.C. that showed up for that. You may recall that's where Obama sang Amazing Grace during that, and of course that made, all of the news shows. But, definitely a horrific incident. And, I had a front row seat for that. And, again, it's something that I hope I never have to be a part of covering ever again. Again, I'm Jay Harper, standing in for Dan Mandis here this morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've been talking about all kinds of things here this morning. Christmas traditions, the division of families over politics during holidays like Christmas. We've had a number of folks call in and express their opinion on how they handle the division in their family over political issues. Again, I just find it heartbreaking that families let all that happen, but I know it does. So do you think that the whole pardon process, the commuting of sentences, and the pardoning of, like the Hunter Biden pardon, do you think there needs to be a re-examination of the whole pardon process by outgoing presidents? I mean, it's not all that unusual to have some pardons or commutations of sentences that raise eyebrows. Every president has commuted sentences or pardoned things that are a little questionable. Yeah, we'll get into that some more here when we return. But first, we've got to check in once again with Joan Jones to see what's happening news-wise at 7:25.
Yeah, how soldiers at Fort Campbell spent their Christmas Day thanks to some big-hearted volunteers. Also, a new group donated a camper to an East Tennessee family whose home was washed away, and they did it just in time for Christmas. We've got those stories at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Good morning. It is now 7:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. 49, cloudy skies. Now, we'll get some sun today, but then we've got some rain arriving. The details in your forecast still to come here. Soldiers who stayed on base at Fort Campbell this week were treated to a little bit of homemade Christmas thanks to a group of volunteers who turned what they call the Warrior Zone into a Christmas wonderland.
I'm a mom and a grandma, so, it's like they're not home, so they need to have that home, to be, and that's what we are. We're trying to make it homey for them.
Yeah, they were treated to homemade lasagna, Christmas presents, and Christmas movies to make it feel a little more like home for the holidays. Well, the first night of Hanukkah was celebrated last night, the holiday that marks the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BC. Now, in Washington, D.C., the lighting of the 30-foot national menorah on the ellipse. Now, it's rare, but this year, Hanukkah landed on the calendar at the very same time as Christmas. In other news, a newly formed group is helping to get East Tennessee and West North Carolina families back into a home after a hurricane that destroyed their lives. Curtis Hawkins with Mountain Strong Sanctuary says one family woke up on Christmas Day in a comfortable environment.
I got to deliver a camper on Christmas Eve to somebody. I was going to a family whose home had been destroyed by the hurricane.
Yeah, and they were still living in their car. That was the 15th camper that this Mountain Strong Sanctuary donated. The volunteers were out there yesterday also dropping off supplies to people in need throughout Cook County. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Yeah, still closed on 840 this morning. That's the northbound side between Sulphur Springs Road and Jefferson Pike. That's exits 57 to 61. They call it police activity. It looks like it's an accident, a very serious one this morning. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the day. Also in Sparta, Memorial Highway between, say, it says both north and southbound, make that right at Spencer Highway. There's a vehicle fire, and police are redirecting traffic around that area. Again, it's Memorial Highway, both sides of the highway, right at Spencer Highway. It's a vehicle on fire. Police are redirecting traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$7:37. Good morning. I'm Jay Harper, in for the birthday man, Dan the Man, Dan Mandis. Yeah, I'm not really sure when Dan will return. You know, we've got New Year's Eve and New Year's, all that stuff here next week. So I won't speculate on when he will return, but he will now. Fear not. But I'll be hanging with you till 9 o'clock this morning, and then I'll be up early with you again tomorrow morning to round out the week. Again, I'm Jay Harper, happy to be sitting in. Yeah, I'll be doing afternoon traffic again today, and then you country music fans, I'll be hanging with you tonight, 7 to midnight on Nash Icon, 95.5 Nash Icon. Yes, a busy day for old Jay, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. We've been talking about the, well, to say the least, controversial commutation of federal death row inmates, commutation of their death penalties by President Biden as he goes out the door. Many people feel the same way I do, in that we need to perhaps set a level of crime that's out of bounds for these commutations and pardons. Here's somebody on the super text line that says they can't help but wonder if some of the bad actors that Sleepy Joe has pardoned are buddies of Hunter. Does Joe even know that he pardoned that many people? Because I think someone else is holding his ink pen. Well, it's entirely possible, I suppose. But I guess that the whole pardoning, the pardonability of presidents, I'm guessing, was instituted just to perhaps right some wrongs over the years, but it's been an ability of American presidents to do going all the way back to George Washington. He issued the first presidential pardons in 1795, where he dismissed charges against a couple of guys that were charged with treason for their involvement in the Whiskey Rebellion of 1794. Yeah, there have certainly been a number of pardons and commutation of sentences that have been nothing short of controversial. It's nothing new. President Andrew Johnson. You know him. He's the guy that was VP and then, of course, assumed the office after Lincoln was assassinated. He granted a full pardon and amnesty to all former Confederates. This happened on Christmas Day, 1868. And that pardon extended to all of those who, quote, directly or indirectly participated in the late insurrection or rebellion. He said he did it to unite the nation under the federal government after the Civil War. But, man, you can only imagine. You can only imagine the controversy of that. But, I understand the mindset of President Johnson's thinking. You go to 1971. President Nixon pardoned Jimmy Hoffa. Of course, he was the head of the Teamsters Union back then. He was less than 5 years into a 13-year prison sentence for jury tampering and pension fund fraud. And then Nixon pardoned the guy. Don't know what was necessarily going on there, but, you remember after the pardon, it wasn't long after that where we never heard from old Jimmy again. And, of course, that's been, a source of all kinds of conspiracy theories over the last 50 years as to what really happened to Jimmy Hoffa. You may also recall, and of course I remember this, I was just a kid, but I remember it well, Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon, pardoning him for all federal crimes that Nixon may or may not have committed or taken part in while he was president. And it's generally considered that Gerald Ford probably lost that 1976 presidential election to Jimmy Carter, because there were a lot of people that were ticked at him for pardoning Nixon. It did cost him perhaps the election. I recall Gerald Ford saying something to the effect after pardoning Nixon that this long national nightmare is over. He just wanted to not have this particular issue being in the forefront of the nation's mindset at the time. You may recall that inflation was out of control back then. You had the so-called gas shortage. You had gasoline, lines at gas stations. Man, I remember all that stuff. Now, whether there was really a gasoline shortage is up for debate. Many people feel that was all nonsense. That was just a big con to jack up gas prices. But anyway, there were a lot of issues going on at the time in our country, and Gerald Ford felt it best to just get on with other problems that the nation was facing at the time. Remember his silly little campaign with the win buttons? Yeah, he wanted you to wear this little button, little pin that said win, which stood for whip inflation now. Now, I liked Gerald Ford, but Jerry, that was silly. Jimmy Carter, he pardoned about 200,000 draft resistors to the Vietnam War. He did that on his first day in office back in 1977. And as you can well imagine, that did not go over well at all with those that did serve their country, and certainly the families of those that were lost in Vietnam. I'm Jay Harper, filling in for Dan Mandis. We'll continue with this train of thought here. But first, we've got to check in one more time, see what's happening on our roadways. All right, Christy, thank you now. Yeah, the whole pardon process is, it's highly suspect. And as many people are saying on the super text line, and Wayne, we'll get to you here in just a minute. Thank you for calling. Many people on the super text line are saying, there perhaps needs to be certain crimes that are off limits in terms of pardons. Wayne's in Nashville. He wants to chat about this whole pardon issue. Wayne, I appreciate you checking in. Merry Christmas and good morning.
Good morning to you, and Merry Christmas, and hope you have a Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you, buddy. Thank you.
So Bill Clinton, on his last day in office, pardoned a young lady, a woman named Susan Rosenberg. Susan Rosenberg was a member of the Black Liberation Army, the Weather Underground. When she was pulled over with a group of people she was with, they found a large cache of weapons and explosives in the vehicle. She was part of the group that bombed the Capitol building in 1983, which nobody ever talks about. And now, since she was pardoned, she is a chairperson on the board of the organization that funded Black Lives Matter. And so if there was a controversial pardon that ever took place, Bill Clinton, on his last day in office, let a terrorist out, and she got commuted out of a 65-year sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I do vaguely remember this, Wayne, and, I frankly, I don't recall any backstory on this or the mindset. I mean, to me, that's one of the things that we never really hear about, or if it's reported, I guess maybe I miss it. But, the reasoning behind these pardons or sentence commutations or what have you, explain yourself. Why are, there needs to be transparency in this, in this process.
Why would you pardon somebody that was involved in a botched Brinks armored car robbery that killed a police officer and two Brinks employees?
Yeah,
she was involved in that.
Yeah, I hear you. And I do remember also Clinton pardoning that dude Mark Rich. Now, granted, it was a nonviolent crime, but he had been indicted for evading like millions in taxes and making all these illegal deals with Iran. Is it to me, what it looks like is a lot of these things are payback for something that we don't know about.
Keep in mind, William Ayers was the ringleader for the Weather Underground. And they were responsible, or people he was associated with were responsible for the mailbox bombings of a lot of federal judges and other officials. And Susan Rosenberg was very deeply involved with him. But William Ayers is also involved with Barack Obama, because that's where Barack Obama, his home in Chicago, is where they announced his run for the Senate when Barack was going to run for Senate up there. So you're talking about a lot of people that are in bed with each other.
Yeah.
And the Clintons, the Obamas, and I hope nobody recognizes my voice because, I don't want to, but I mean, people have to understand that there's no coincidence to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And now that Susan Rosenberg is on the board as a chairperson for it's something current, I can't remember the name of it, but they're the ones that fund Black Lives Matter. So she's still doing the same thing she was doing 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and probably, putting quite a bit of cash in her pocket along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So,
I don't know if this woman was involved in the, a lot of the Black Lives Matter leadership that, were embezzling funds and buying mansions and all that stuff from all the funds that were raised. But yeah, you're right, Wayne. I mean, there's very little, if any, coincidences with when it comes to these pardons, and maybe the people that are involved in them currently, the names that are out there, are maybe people that are connected to somebody from way back when. It could be a debt that's being repaid from decades ago. You just, you have really no way of knowing.
Yes, sir. Well, just thought I'd share it with you.
Yeah, well, hey, bud, I appreciate it. Well, have a great new year. All right, buddy. Thanks for calling now.
All right, bye.
All right, man. This is 99.7 WTN, and I'm Jay Harper, again filling in for Dan Mandis here this morning. Chris Hand, fear not, Chris will be around come 9 o'clock this morning, so it'll be good to hear Chris's voice back on the radio, 7:51 here this morning. Again, these presidential pardons, there are no shortages of controversial pardons, regardless of the president's political party or political affiliation. President George H.W. Bush, the first Bush president, he pardoned the convictions of 6 fellow Reagan administration officials for their role in that whole Iran-Contra thing. So, Republicans are certainly not immune to this kind of stuff. And this included former Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. Remember that guy? He was indicted for lying to Congress about selling arms to Iran. And Bush pardoned him before his trial. And the others either faced probation or hadn't been sentenced yet. And again, I mentioned Mark Rich. He was a billionaire that Clinton pardoned. And, of course, we just heard from Wayne about the other lady that was one of Bill Clinton's pardonees, I guess you could say. Now, the Mark Rich guy, he fled the U.S. After he was indicted. And hell, that dude was a fugitive until he died in 2013. And his pardon was considered controversial, as you can well imagine, in part because his ex-wife was found to have made a whole bunch of donations to Democrats. Wow, fancy that. A Justice Department investigation into the incident ended in 2005. No charges. And you may remember Roger Clinton. Yeah, Bill's half-brother. That dude was such a clown. You may remember Billy Carter. Remember Jimmy's brother? Yeah, that dude was a clown, but he was kind of a harmless clown. Remember Billy Beer? In fact, if you have some Billy Beer cans, those things are quite collectible. Make a little money on those. Anyway, Roger Clinton, he was the half brother of Bill, and Bill, he pardoned old Raj back in 2001. He was serving time in the slammer for possessing cocaine and drug trafficking. This happened back in 85, and he had already spent a year in the pokey when he got pardoned. So anyway, let's go ahead and check in one more time here in this hour with our news person on the job. That, of course, would be Joan Jones.
For folks heading out on I-40 today, there's a new problem that you should know about. Also, how to recycle that real Christmas tree. Those stories coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7:58 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mason and I commiserating on, we both got like these coughing fits here this morning.
Why are we all sick right at the end of the year? I thought we were supposed to go into the beginning of the year with positiveness, with being able to actually breathe.
Well, I mean, I don't feel like I'm sick, but I've got like, I don't know. Maybe
whatever
is there something in this studio? I don't know, but just getting in a coughing fit in here. Anyway, Jay Harper here, coughing away as we head toward the top of the hour. Yeah, we'll get to Joan Jones in the news here in just a bit. Just kind of wrapping up this whole presidential pardon stuff. You may also recall back in 2017, President Obama, he commuted all but 4 months of the 35-year prison sentence of Chelsea Manning. Yeah, remember he, her, whatever. Excuse me, he was born Bradley Manning. Anyway, he was a former U.S. Army intelligence analyst. He was convicted of leaking military information. You know, I mean, good grief, that's treasonous. Anyway, let's go ahead and in this segment, we'll now head to the top of the hour with Joan Jones on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning. It's now 8 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. 49 degrees, pretty cloudy right now. We've got your full forecast coming up. This is the day the AAA expects a lot of people are going to hit the road to get back home after the holiday.
Of the 119 million people expected to travel over the holiday season, 90% of them are going to drive. And if you're among those millions hitting the road, well, AAA tells us that the best time to drive is before 11 a.m. Expect plenty of traffic between noon and 5 p.m.
That's ABC's Gio Benitez. Still, you have time to get out before the worst of the traffic. Now, if you are planning to head toward North Carolina, there's a heads up for you. A big chunk of eastbound I-40 near the Pigeon Forge, the Pigeon River Gorge, has collapsed. And that's a new problem for that area that was hit hard by Hurricane Helene. Now, this representative from North Carolina DOT says there are ways to get around it.
We do have I-26 open into North Carolina in Carter County. That's one lane of traffic open in each direction around mile marker 38. We've got those bridges that we're continuing to work on then. I know that's helped alleviate a lot of the issues.
And engineers are working on that section of I-40 that collapsed. They're working to stabilize it. Well, the flu is making a comeback. 13 states, including Tennessee, reporting high or very high levels of flu-like illnesses. The Tennessee Department of Health says outpatient visits are up 4%. The CDC is saying it's too early to tell how good of a match the flu vaccine will be this year. Highway Patrol saying that Santa must have lost a gift during his Christmas Eve deliveries. They've got a box that was wrapped in Christmas paper that was found lying along the side of the road on I-40 westbound in Cookeville. The tag says that it's from Santa. The THP is taking phone calls from anyone who thinks that they may know who that gift was meant for. Well, if you have a real Christmas tree and you're wondering what to do with it now that the holiday has passed, Nashville says you can start dropping them off as early as today for recycling. There are 13 locations, mostly at Metro Parks and Living Earth locations. They'll accept trees through Valentine's Day. In Clarksville, drop-offs start at Heritage Park today through January 6th. Just remember to undecorate those trees before you bring them to a drop-off location. Also, the day after Christmas, that's the day when a lot of people head to the retail stores, to use the gift cards that were stuffed into their stockings. They'll also be returning the gifts that they weren't really crazy about, even the ones that they purchased online.
Looking at the seller's return policy, pay attention to who pays for that shipping. Because if you have to pay, you might be able to save on some fees if you're able to also return that to a local store.
That's Retail Me Not Stephanie Carls. Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. About a half hour to go until the opening bell, and stock futures are pointing down. The Dow futures minus 174. NASDAQ futures are down 78. S&P futures, they're losing 22 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Still all closed off on I-840 northbound Sulphur Springs to Jefferson Pike. That's exits 57 to 61. Now they're calling it just an investigation. It appears there was a serious crash there earlier. Also, East Nashville, it's a crash at Dickerson Pike and Trinity Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk here again with the coughing fit. I don't know. The air's real dry. I think that maybe that's kind of got something to do with it. Jay Harper here, gagging and coughing my way through Nashville's morning news. Dan Mandis. Happy birthday, Dan. The Marconi Award-winning Dan Mandis celebrating a birthday today. And just putting a bow on this whole presidential pardon discussion, you know, Donald Trump, he's not without his controversy during that first term when it came to presidential pardons. I mean, he pardoned a number of folks that were considered to be his buddies. Steve Bannon, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone. But perhaps the most controversial one, most eyebrow-raising pardon was when he pardoned the father of his son-in-law, Charles Kushner, Jared's father. He was convicted back in 2020 for tax fraud, witness tampering, making false statements to the Federal Election Commission. And Kushner, though, he did serve 14 months of his 2-year prison sentence before he was pardoned. And Trump he's appointed Kushner to serve as the U.S. ambassador to France. So, you know, all the presidents do this kind of stuff. But as we were talking about earlier, not that what this man was convicted of is not worthy of just looking the other way. I mean, at least it wasn't violent. You've got Biden commuting sentences and pardoning murderers and rapists, and that's an entirely different level. 9 minutes past 8 o'clock. Again, I'm Jay Harper. Chris Hand will be coming up at 9 o'clock, and I think he will join us here at 8:30 to kind of let us know how his Christmas went and what you can expect when he takes over the reins at 9 o'clock. Have you been enjoying this this whole, it's trolling. Donald Trump has really been, as Wally and the Beav would say, giving Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the business. He's been trolling the guy big time. He says Trump has said that he will cut Canadians' taxes if they agree to become the 51st state. And now he's urging Canadians to draft NHL legend Wayne Gretzky to be the Canadian Prime Minister. Trump wrote this on Truth Social. I just left Wayne Gretzky, the great one as he is known in hockey circles. I said, Wayne, why don't you run for Prime Minister of Canada? Soon to be known as the Governor of Canada. You would win easily. You wouldn't even have to campaign, is what Trump said. Now, as we know, Trump thinks that Canada's been ripping us off over trade. And, man, he has been taunting Trudeau for weeks. Keeps referring to Canada as a prospective U.S. state and the Prime Minister as its governor. Now, Gretzky, he's never held any political office. He says he has no interest in launching a campaign to replace Trudeau as Prime Minister, but Trump says that he's going to keep pushing Canadians to coax the Hockey Hall of Famer into mounting a campaign. Trump said that he admitted that Gretzky had no interest, but he says, I think people of Canada should start a draft Wayne Gretzky movement. Trump went ahead to issue Trudeau a Merry Christmas in another post, but he did mockingly refer to the Prime Minister as the governor again. Well, Trump has been saying that Canada should become a U.S. state because the taxes there in Canada are sky high. And if Canada was to become the 51st state, their taxes would be cut by more than 60%. Trump also saying that Canadian businesses would almost immediately double in size. They'd be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world if Canada was to join the U.S. Trudeau has been the prime minister up there since 2015. He's a Liberal Party leader up there, and he's not a real popular guy up there. Been a lot of calls for him to resign, even from members of his own party. They've got a federal election up there next year. And the Canadians, they're fed up with all the high prices. They got a housing crisis up there that has emerged under this guy's more than 9 years in office. The latest polls show that Canada's Conservative Party has a commanding lead in the upcoming election, which is expected to take place before October of next year. Now, you may recall that Trudeau, he flew to Mar-a-Lago last month and had dinner with Trump. And Trump still threatening to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian imports. And Trudeau reportedly told Trump that that would kill Canada's economy. So Trump apparently said, so your country can't survive unless it's ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion? Well, now, this kind of contentious relationship between Trump and Trudeau goes back a ways. Here's some comments by Trump regarding the Canadian Prime Minister that goes back to 2018.
Mr. President, Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. And I love Canada, by the way.
Prime Minister Trudeau talking about you last night.
Well, he's two-faced. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out, and I guess he's not very happy about it. We're being taken advantage of on trade. You know, they put out a document. I don't know if you saw it. They didn't want me to see it, but we found it. Perhaps they were trying to show the power they have. It's close to $100 billion a year loss with Canada. We finished the meeting. Really, everybody was happy. I left and it was very friendly. When I got onto the plane, I think that Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. And I see the television, and he's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, push him around. We just shook hands. It was very friendly. He's two-faced. He's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, we just shook hands. That he had because he assumed I was in an airplane and I wasn't watching. He's two-faced. He learned that's going to cost a lot of money for the people of Canada. He learned. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Sounds like Mr. Trump thinks that Mr. Trudeau is a Batman character. He's two-faced. Let's go ahead and check our roads at 8:15. Thank you there, Christy. Again, I'm Jay Harper in for Dan Mandis here this morning and tomorrow morning as well, along with Mason and Joan, as we get through this day after Christmas Day. I know a lot of folks back at work today. And, of course, a lot of people getting to take today and tomorrow off, and maybe even a couple of days next week, as we have the New Year's holiday, New Year's Eve and whatnot, coming up as well. So I know that Trump is tongue-in-cheek about all of this Canada stuff. One of the things that I do like about Trump, and there are many things, again, is, you know, Cecil called in this morning and said when we were talking about how families have been divided at, you know, holiday gatherings to where, you know, politically, to where you've got folks refusing to show up at people's homes for Christmas or what. One of the things that Cecil pointed out is that so many people that perhaps are anti-Trump have never really dug into his policies. They're just drinking the Kool-Aid from the mainstream media about what a racist and sexist and just overall bad guy Donald Trump is, and not really getting themselves informed as to his policies and what he was able to achieve in that first term. And let's face it, in that first term, this upcoming term, he's got both houses of Congress. He's got the Supreme Court, which, let's face it, leans conservative. So the things that he should be able to accomplish in this second term, we can only hope that for once, the representatives that we send to D.C. will actually do what we send them up there to do. How many times? I know it certainly happened to me where I will be wholeheartedly behind a candidate, when they're campaigning, man, they're saying all the right things, but boy, they get to D.C. and it just, as Ricky Ricardo would say, what happened? I mean, so I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, as I think a good part of the country is, that maybe this term, things will start to really change for the better. All this DEI nonsense can go away. You may have seen Donald Trump's comments about all of the transgender stuff. He called it transgender lunacy. And of course, as you can well imagine, he was hammered about that by those in the mainstream media and whatnot. But certainly hoping that so many of the things that Joe Biden destroyed, let's face it, Biden's whole 4 years was all about reversing as much of the Trump decisions, the Trump legislation that was able to be his whole term was just about being against Trump. And then, of course, the entire campaign of Kamala Harris was the same darn thing. And thankfully, people saw through all that garbage. Harris never really did tell us what her plans were, other than Trump's a bad guy. But of course, the mainstream media and the Democrats still insist that the reason Kamala lost is because we Trump voters and we Republicans are just rubes and idiots and just don't understand things. Yeah. We understand plenty. We understand we can't buy groceries. Gasoline at times is almost impossible to afford. Taxes through the... I mean, we know. I don't have to go through the list. We all live it, right? You don't need some Joe like me on the radio telling you all these things that have been a struggle for us hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. We're living it. And to have the mainstream media or the Democratic machine tell us how good things are. Karine Jean-Pierre. Now, the press secretary for Biden. I must admit, I wouldn't wanted to have been that lady. Every day coming out, blowing smoke up people's fannies about how great things are. I don't know if the woman really believed that or not, but that was a job. I can't imagine anybody wanting to be Joe Biden's press secretary. Having to come out and face the music every day and tell us what we're seeing, we're not seeing. Gaslighting the American public. Not a fun gig, I wouldn't think. So, yes, we have been living through all this stuff, and I certainly hope that once and for all, I have been optimistic before in my lifetime. I just turned 64 years of age. The very first president I voted for, Ronald Reagan, back in 1980, and I've voted Republican every presidential election since. Maybe I wasn't really thrilled about some of our choices. Mitt Romney, John McCain. But, it certainly beat the heck out of the alternative, right? The old hold your nose and vote thing. But I'm hoping that for once in my lifetime that we finally have a president that doesn't care about what anyone thinks. He's going to do what's best for America, what's best for the hardworking American people. America first. Stop giving all this cash to all these countries and dictators and regimes that hate us. You still got folks over in the Carolinas living in tents, and we're sending billions to Ukraine. It's that kind of garbage. Not that the folks in Ukraine aren't suffering, but darn it, we want to be first. America first. And Donald Trump is certainly representative of that mindset. And that's why the guy was elected. That's why the guy crossed party lines with many, many voters. Union members voting for Trump. Young people voting for Trump. Minorities voting for Trump. Now, I do recall, I mentioned that I had first voted for Ronald Reagan, 1980, and then again in 84. And it reminds me a lot of Reagan. You remember the term Reagan Democrats? Ronald Reagan did a lot of the same things that Donald Trump has just done in terms of attracting a quote-unquote new electorate for Republicans. Now let's hope that these folks will actually get some things done. I'm Jay Harper in for Dan Mandis. Let's go ahead and see what's coming up news-wise at the bottom of the hour at 8:24 with Joan Jones.
Well, that passenger jet that crashed in Kazakhstan may have been the victim of war. Also, a family with 2 young children had been living in their car since Hurricane Helene hit. Yesterday on Christmas, they woke up in a safe space in a warm place. That's coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Good morning, 8:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Still closed off this morning on 840 northbound between Sulphur Springs Road and Jefferson Pike as police are continuing a crash investigation. We'll update that every few minutes here on Super Talk 99.7. Stay with us. Well, it now appears that a passenger jet that was headed for Russia and crashed in Kazakhstan over the weekend was the unfortunate victim of war. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that plane had been diverted to an area where Moscow's air defenses have battled Ukrainian drones in recent weeks. Now, an aviation security firm said the flight was likely shot down by Russian military air defenses. 38 people were killed. Meantime, Russia hit Ukraine with a new strike on Christmas Day.
Russia launching a barrage of missiles and drone strikes targeting the Ukrainian power grid, leaving 500,000 people without heat in freezing winter conditions and triggering widespread blackouts. People in the capital, Kyiv, left to spend the holiday sheltering in subway stations. President Zelensky posting, Putin deliberately chose Christmas for an attack. What could be more inhumane?
And that's ABC's Nicole D'Antonio. In Nashville, more areas are open after the Christmas Day bombing 4 years ago. The south block of 2nd Avenue reopened to traffic after construction there wrapped up ahead of schedule. That'll get traffic and foot traffic returning again, but business owners like Frank Miller tell Channel 4 they're still struggling.
This is not the end. It's just the beginning of trying to get the street and the businesses back on its feet.
And now careful traveling in that area, too. There are some new traffic patterns to pay attention to. And Christmas Day for one East Tennessee family who lost their home in Hurricane Helene was spent for the very first time in a warm and safe space. Curtis Hawkins of Mountain Strong Sanctuary said he was able to help that family move out of their car and into a camper.
I mean, it's the coolest Christmas present I'll ever get to give, that's for sure. I gave those parents somewhere safe for their kids. That was the coolest part about it.
The newly formed group also handed out toys and necessities to families in need. Mountain Strong Sanctuary has a Facebook page where you can find out how to help them as well. Well, that's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather just ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Well, we still have that problem this morning on I-840, the northbound lanes between exit 57 and 61. It's a crash, and it's still closed for an investigation in that area. Also, Belshire, Dickerson Pike at Doverside Drive. That's a crash involving some injuries. Crash on White Bridge Pike as well, right at Harding Place at St. Thomas West. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
8:37, 99.7 WTN. I'm Jay Harper. Winding things down here on this day after Christmas, 2024. You know, everybody talks about this, but it's true, man. You blink and you're in a new year. Every year seems to just zoom by faster and faster. And we're looking at 2025 here in less than a week. It's pretty crazy. It does go by quickly. And again, you know, to me, it's been kind of a stressful year for a whole host of reasons. I mean, I don't know about you, but these elections are exhausting. You know, especially from someone in our position here on Super Talk. I mean, you know, it's our job to, and we enjoy it, covering the political landscape. But it can be exhausting, especially in a presidential year, of course, presidential election year. You know, all the beating up and the hand-wringing and all of the criticism of Donald Trump and those that support him that's been going on for longer than a year. I mean, when Trump announced that he was going to run again, boy, it was off to the races for the mainstream media and the liberal-leaning press. They went into attack mode and just kept ramping it up. So to me, again, it was rather kind of stressful listening to all that stuff. I just wanted it to be over. And in talking with people, I think a lot of folks felt the same way. Certainly hoping it would be over with the result that we ultimately received. But at the time, in listening to all these polls and what to make of this, that, and what have you, I mean, we were led to believe that Kamala Harris was leading Donald Trump in the presidential election. Even though Sleepy Joe bowed out after that disastrous first debate. Right from the get-go. Oh, I can remember it vividly. Chuck Schumer, that bozo from New York, he was giddy. He was literally jumping up and down and clapping his hands because he was so excited that they dumped Joe and Kamala was the nominee, the anointed one. Oh, yes, we've got our candidate now. We are on to victory. Well, we all know how that turned out. But again, it was rather stressful for those of us that have supported Donald Trump. And you're getting all these mixed signals. But I remember telling my wife, I had a hard time believing what these polls were saying. I really did doubt what these polls were saying. And as it turns out, these polls, for the most part, were, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, BS, Barbra Streisand. Thankfully, they were. And of course, that lady, the pollster there for the Des Moines Register, you know, she got out of the polling business after she came across and said that Trump was leading, or pardon me, that Kamala Harris was leading Trump in Iowa by 3 points, and he ended up winning by what, 13, 14, something like that? Yeah, all of those pollsters, they were feeding us lines of bull. I think, and many others think, in an effort to just sway the election. Keep certain voters at home. Oh, well, Kamala's got it. No sense going to the polls. Well, thank God that so many people did not feel that way. Yeah, it's been an exhausting year from a political perspective. As someone on the Super Talk line text line here. Deterring evil is exhausting. Yes. Hey, hear, hear. That from Peter on the super text line. And, of course, just from a financial standpoint, and as I was speaking of earlier, Corinne Jean-Pierre having to get up there and spew all of her gaslighting nonsense about how wonderful everything is or was. And we're all saying, well, are you looking at the same economy we are? Well, first of all, no, she's not. She's there in her little bubble. But we all have been dealing with the inflation, the high prices, just... But to be told, oh, everything's fantastic, and what you're seeing, you're not seeing. After that first disastrous presidential debate that forced Mr. Biden out of the race, we were told we didn't see what we saw. Well, he's totally coherent. He's fine. Whatever do you mean? It turns out we're now seeing reports, more and more of them, even by the left-leaning liberal media, that Joe Biden was suffering from a mental decline before he ever took office. And they've been hiding it for 4 years. You know, let's not forget, in that 2020 election, Biden hiding in the basement. You know, the guy never really came out, did, oh, well, COVID, you know, he can't really get... Yeah. Yeah. It was all just a big shell game. We've got another traffic report. Let's go ahead and check on things. That issue out on 840 eastbound there in Rutherford County has been rather upsetting. And anyway, let's go ahead and check on our roads once again. Thank you there, Christy. And you'll be hearing my dulcet tones this afternoon. I'll be doing the traffic report. We've had hardly non-existent traffic the last several days with the holiday and all, but sadly, we've had what appears to be a major incident today there on 840. It's been closed for several hours now. And we're getting all the folks that reach out to us on the super text line, the folks that pass that area. Again, these are unofficial reports, if you will. But people saying that it appears that a truck crossed the median and hit another vehicle head on. You know, it's just not good. Not good. So, again, I'm Jay Harper, sitting in for Dan Mandis, who is celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday, Dan. And Chris Hand upcoming here in just a few minutes. He'll take over the reins. I know a lot of you will be happy to hear Chris's voice back here on the airwaves. I saw Chris in the back room there, and he looks like he's got his mini-me with him. So that's one great thing about, your kids having time off during the holidays. You can kind of, hang with them a little more, bring them into the gig. That's cool. But in any event, yeah, we'll be hearing from Chris here in just a few minutes. Well, switching gears a little bit here, the guy that's accused of attempting to assassinate President-elect Trump down there at his Florida golf course earlier this year, they've delayed this dude's trial. He was supposed to get on trial in February of this coming year, February 10th to be exact. That was supposed to be the start date of the trial. Ryan Wesley Ruth, Ralph, I've heard it pronounced both ways. Anyway, you know who I'm speaking of here. The guy hanging out at the golf course who apparently, camped out there But thankfully, Secret Service agent noticing a gun sticking through the fence. Yeah. It's a good thing he did notice that. Anyway, they've delayed the trial to September of 25. This guy's 58 years old, and he's pleaded not guilty. September 8th is when this guy's trial has been delayed until. And the delay was requested by the guy's attorneys. They're saying they need more time to figure out whether this fellow is sane or not. They're weighing whether to pursue an insanity defense. This guy, a native of Hawaii, he had 17 cell phones and all kinds of other electronic gadgets. And defense lawyers, they also say they need time to go through all that stuff. His legal team's also been given all kinds of, hundreds of hours, apparently, of body cam footage and surveillance videos that they got to go over. The judge ruling that this fellow's lawyers must decide whether they will mount an insanity defense by February, and that any visits to the site of the assassination attempt must be completed by the end of February. This guy, as you can imagine, he's facing life in prison if convicted. That's what the penalty for that charge, if convicted, the charge of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate. And he also faces a number of charges. Apparently, he assaulted the Secret Service guys. And, of course, he had a bunch of weapons. He was, violating some firearms laws. Luckily, though, again, he was spotted by that Secret Service agent who fired on him but missed. That's something else that really didn't come out till fairly recently. That was the House Assassination Task Force report revealed that the Secret Service agent was evidently just feet away from this guy, shot at him like 5 times or so, and missed. That's not too comforting, is it? I thought these people were supposed to be crack shots. I don't know. Are these the same ones that they're in, it was California, right? Where somebody was, if I remember right, was threatening Kamala Harris or something. Anyway, the Secret Service agents taking shots and missing there, too. Anyway, Ruth dropped his rifle after being shot at, then took off. But the local cops there in Florida caught him about 40 minutes later. And, of course, this only happened just a few months, 2 months to be exact, after that other bozo in Butler, PA, came oh so close to assassinating the soon-to-be 47th president. Again, I'm Jay Harper, sitting in for Dan Mandis, winding things down here. We'll have Chris join us here in a few minutes just to kind of let us know what you can look forward to with Chris's titillating and engaging commentary from 9 until noon today. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. I know, but hey, like we say, I said early this morning, it's the host roulette wheel. My turn came up where they felt, maybe the listenership is not what it normally is the day after Christmas. So this Harper guy, he's willing to get up early and, he hopefully won't run off as many listeners. So I'll be here again tomorrow as well. And I'll be on those traffic, not that you care, but just letting you know, I'm on the traffic reports again this afternoon. And then for you country music fans, 7 to midnight tonight on 95.5 Nash Icon, I'll be spinning the hits. Yeah, the country hits. Yeah. 20 minutes on the backside of the time. Anyway, we'll be there tonight. And then returning tomorrow morning right here. Yeah, I went ahead and rented a hotel room just down the street. I figure, doing all that running around back and forth, I live in Murfreesboro, so, what's the point? Just, when I get out of here in a couple of minutes, I'm just going to stumble across the street and crash in the hotel. Nice room. And they're not comping me anything, but I'll go ahead and say it. It's the Placemaker Hotel right here on McGavick. Very, very nice. So anyway, I'll look forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning, and we'll get into who knows what tomorrow. There are a number of things that I didn't get to here today, and maybe we'll dive into them tomorrow. One of the things that I kind of want to expand upon is remember the woman / guy / kind of not really sure that was in the Olympics, that boxer. What was his name? Imane Khalif. He was the boxer that was part of that gender controversy. Yeah, he got a number of votes for the AP's Female Athlete of the Year. Caitlin Clark won that award. But yeah, Clark won it. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles, she came in second. But this person, Imane Khalif, was third. Yeah, he qualified for this person qualified for the Paris Olympics. But as you may recall, the gender was called into question. Apparently, this person has XY chromosomes, which are associated with biological males. So, anyway, he won a gold medal there in Paris. You had that one boxer that forfeited her bout against this person in protest, and also saying that this boxer, Angela Carini, she says that this Khalif punched her once and said, this person's going to kill me. She said she'd never been hit that hard. So she said, ain't doing this. So, yeah, and as President-elect Trump was saying, granted, this is a foreign boxer, but as he was saying, he's going to work hard in this country to eliminate what he referred to as the transgender lunacy. We can only hope. All right, let's go ahead and find out what Joan Jones has got on her agenda for the news at the top of the hour.
There are new questions about a passenger jet that crashed overseas. Also, a water main break that's affecting some folks in Nashville this morning. And we'll also take a look at that closure on I-840. Got some new information on what happened there. Those stories coming up at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.